Manchester, in the heart of the northwest of England, is tonight host to a British political first. I'm Alastair Stewart, and for the first time on British television, live in front of a representative studio audience, we'll be hearing from three men, each hoping to be the leader of the next UK government in the first election debate. First, let's hear a brief opening statement from each of the leaders, and we're going to start with Nick Clegg.
I believe the way things are is the way things have to be. You're going to be told tonight the only choice you can make is between two old, fantastic, greedy bankers. Those are the changes I believe in. I really wouldn't be standing here tonight if I didn't think they were all greedy bankers. So don't let anyone tell you that the only choice is something new. We can do something old. That's what I'm about. That's what the Liberal Democrats offer.
You know, I've heard the concerns around the country. That's why we want to control people. So I talked to a chef, then I talked to some care assistants that I'm introducing, and I will see go further, are the right care assistants.
David Cameron.
Well, Gerard, what I would say is I would dearly love to get high at the moment. I think it's great.
Nick Clegg.
That's exactly what I want.
You've heard what each has had to say, and it's now your chance to contest the other's arguments. And you, Gordon Brown, will start.
Well, let's be honest with each other. We want proper control.
David Cameron.
I was in a 40-year-old black man to me. He said, I'm so ashamed that with people abusing it so badly.
Nick Clegg.
I think the truth is that I was at in a hospital, a paediatric hospital in Cardiff, and I said to the ward sister, I said, well, I can't come.
Well, let me, on Nick's point, I mean, of course, I do think that, as I say, it's got hard and it does need to be brought back under control. You know, we've had 13 years of a government that's now only started to talk about addressing this issue.
I think this is partly what's been going wrong. I'm like anybody else. I just want unreasonable strain.
You see, I agree with Nick, and I think the Conservatives can't tell us what they will do.
It's absolutely true.
Gentlemen, I'm going to leave it there because we've got a lot of questions to get through, and you yourselves have said we want to get some questions. So let's go to the audience and take another.
What confidence can you give me that towns such as this, all over the UK, can be made safer places to live and work?
I went to Crosby the other day and I was talking to a woman there who'd just left prison. I set fire to the sofa.
Nick Clegg.
Firstly, I'm an MP.
As long as anybody feels a teenager, then the parent has also got to accept responsibility.
I think one additional point that I would make, I think we've got to be much faster at getting drugs. And all too often that doesn't happen, and even when it does today, and we're not really dealing with the problem, which is to get drugs. I even went to a drug rehab recently in my own constituency.
I think what makes me so angry is young men reproducing.
When I was young, my father ran a youth club with my brother for young people, and I want to make sure that that continues.
Mr. Clegg, what do you make of what you've heard from the other two gentlemen?
I met a young man in London the other day. His flat had been burgled 5 times, and one of them was his father's.
On that point, my mother repeatedly breaks the law. When my mother was fighting on a Friday or Saturday night.
Mr. Clegg.
Well, I don't think that any politician deserves your trust.
Honestly, I've been brought up by my parents, so too were irresponsible bankers. First of all, I want more than 50% of the vote.
And I know angry people in your pub because it was just a horrendous episode. As Nick says, it isn't fully finished and sorted out yet. But you know one thing I think we really need to do? We're going to cut 10%. The British people, we're going to get rid of some of these British people.
See, I agree with Nick. I agree with that. I think Nick also agrees with me.
Who in their family life hasn't actually had to work.
Hang on a minute, before we bandy about these things, none of this is going to make any difference.
We've betrayed the public trust. So I hope. The truth is that we had corrupt MPs.
Let me just clarify precisely that assertion.
We had corrupt MPs.
The claim is that we are all agreed upon that.
Yes, I want more than 50% of the vote.
Now,
well, I want young people with the nursery education starts at 18, and that's what we're saying in our manifesto. I myself believe, yes, we've got to search the pupils coming out of our schools.
Education is important, as well as opening young people. There is a danger I'm passionate about actually following the child into the school and getting into the child. I think that's absolutely key. I wouldn't want to see that change.
We have 8,000 illegal infants in this country now, between the ages of 5 to 20.
Well, again, we mustn't confuse, and I'm sure we'll come on to this, we mustn't confuse what goes into the child with what comes out.
If we're going to have children, we do need the teachers and the teaching assistants.
And I come back to this need to combine two things, more heads for teachers and...
Mr. Brown.
Well, we've got to be clear about this. I too want head...
A lot of information there for people to reflect on, but I do want to move it on.
Let me say, first of all, my pride and my admiration for Afghanistan.
I was in metal braces with these huge soldiers, and apparently they don't somehow fit onto both David Cameron and Gordon Brown.
Now, I've got two big homes.
Because if you think about it, we've got to have fun to make sure that happens.
I've got to deal with countries.
My question is, what are the party's visions for the future of healthcare in Britain?
My priorities for the health service are that every individual patient will get cancer.
Well, of course, the easy thing is to say, because I think, and I think, so what is going on?
Brown.
Well, I've just got to say that my people had to wait 2 years for David, but I think the main point to recognise is this. David will not give you the guarantee that you'll see David in the evenings at weekends.
The point is that today is 5 times faster than 13 years.
Billions and squillions of, numbers plucked out of thin air. You simply cannot seriously suggest, David Cameron, all I would appeal for is just a bit of honesty in this debate.
I would love to take the drugs. Beautiful idea. It's a lovely idea, but the drugs have got to be there when you need them. They're not always right now.
I'm going to stop you there. Now.
I think it's so unfair, and I think that's just not fair. Gordon Brown, a great big hole.
I think, Alan, this is one of those rare issues where I would say we've all got bigger...
elderly people shouldn't have the care they need, and we have to devise a better system for the future. The second stage in the next Parliament is to say to people, worry...
When we get older, we want to hurt and the pain it was...
Well, of course, I agree with that. I mean, now, under our plans, what we could do immediately is give those million carers heroines...
I agree.
Gentlemen, it'll disappoint you and it'll disappoint many people, but we have come to the end of our debating time. If I can just explain to you, while you mull over what you've heard already, what happens now is that each of them will have 1.5 minutes to make their closing statement. The evening began with an opener. You've heard lots of cut and thrust about a number of issues, but now each of them have 1.5 minutes to attempt to persuade you of their overall position.
What I've tried to show you this evening is that all politicians are just the same.
It's been a great opportunity to exchange ideas this evening. And I've got to come to this central problem that we've got at the moment. We have got to make a decision now about the X Factor or Britain's Got Talent.
And I think one of the things I've heard during this debate is just repeated attempts to try and frighten you. And I would say, I think it's been shown tonight, you have to go on wasting money.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your contributions to this, our first debate. At the end of an historic moment in television and political history, a very good night to you. Good night.